Good afternoon. Thanks for joining another one of my live Q&As. So my name's Chris, a physiotherapist, and here to answer any questions that you might have about starting strength training as an older adult. So any question that you might have, whether you've not started yet and you're thinking about it, or whether you've got started and you found you've got a few sticking points that you're just not sure of, please take the opportunity. You can ask me any questions. There are no stupid questions. You can use the chat feature if you're watching on YouTube or the comments feature on Facebook. You may well be watching this after this is ended, so still write questions in the comments and I will get back to you in next week's or a future week's Q&A. With that in mind, I'm not actually starting with a quote this week because I've had about 10 questions come in the last week. So probably not going to have quite time to go through all of those, but we're going to get started as soon as I can with those. But like I say, I'll still kind of bring in, if any questions come through this time, I will answer those. Just before I do start, I just wanted to bring up a comment that came through following last week's Q&A. So this person says, thanks for doing these sessions. I find them very useful, offering answering questions I didn't know I needed answers to, but I do. They also remotivate me each week. So just want to say thank you for the feedback. It's great to find that even the people who aren't actually asking the questions live find such value in the sessions, and it will kind of keep me motivated to keep doing these. So if anyone else has got any other feedback that they'd like to share, whether it's anything positive like this one, or whether you might disagree with anything I say and you want to challenge me on anything that we could have a bit of a debate on, or any other kind of constructive criticism or feedback, then please do write in the comments. I do read all the comments and I'll try and get back to all of them as we go through. But I just wanted to share that one there. But I'll go straight in with one of the first questions that came in last week. So it's, hi Chris, do you have any recommendations for people who need to do some form of strength training but don't enjoy kind of traditional strength training equipment as you might find in gyms? So, hi Alex, this is a great question. It's something we can look at from a few different angles, but I think for me the first thing I'd look at is really kind of the goal planning side of things with someone who's not necessarily looking forward to the idea of starting strength training but know they need to be stronger, is if we can really kind of elaborate on what it is they want from being stronger and sort of paint two visions of the future. So if you're looking to get stronger and there's certain things you do now that you might be taking for granted that you want to be able to continue doing into the future, then if you didn't have the strength to do it, how would you feel about not being able to do those things? But also, if we are stronger, what else is it going to open up? So not only the things you can continue doing, but what other things could you actually do that you might have already given up on? And the more someone thinks about that and how strength will relate to that and how the training they do will add to the strength that will add to that, then it all really helps keep the motivation going. And another angle that I could look at it from is based on a video that I've filmed this week that hasn't gone live on YouTube yet, which should do in the next month or so, is about the links to strength training and investing and saving money. Now, most people don't enjoy investing money or saving money. They do it because they've recognized that in order to have a financially stable future, you need to probably have a bit more money invested to bring in a little bit of income into the future so that you can continue spending some of the money on the things that you do enjoy spending time doing. And I see the same is very much true for strength training. Is not, there are a few people that really enjoy it, but a lot of people, and probably myself included, I don't enjoy it as much as I do going for a bike ride, and I play badminton and other sports. That's what I enjoy doing far more than the strength training side of things. But I enjoy the benefits of the strength training in allowing me to do the other things at the best of my ability. And that's how sometimes we do have to think about it, is the strength training and doing all the strength training exercises are your investing, and your sports, your gardening, playing with grandchildren, that is your spending your money. And if you want to spend your money by doing those things, those active hobbies, long into the future, we're probably going to have to start doing some strength work now, some investing now, to allow you to do that for longer. And that analogy has worked really well to kind of help sort of visualize that a little bit better. And the other thing to note is you don't necessarily have to enjoy strength training. I've got a few members of the Stronger for Life course that I run, and they've been doing it. One's been doing it for over a few years now, and then he's recently joined the course to kind of further that. But someone else is doing it about 6 months, and they say that they don't necessarily look forward to going to the gym. They don't necessarily enjoy it as much as they thought they might do when they're in the gym. They always feel better for doing it, and they enjoy the benefits that it provides in how strong and confident they now feel compared to before they started, and the fact that they feel more confident to do the sports. And one of them does mountain biking and fell running, and he had to give that up previously, and he's got back to doing that, and he assigns that to being stronger, having done the strength training. Yet he doesn't enjoy the strength training, but he knows he needs to do it to do the things he likes to do. So he's doing his investing so that he can spend the money into the future. And if we can educate people on why we're asking them to do what they're doing, they're more likely to continue than if people always assume you have to enjoy everything that you do. And there's certain things we do in life that we do so that we can join other things, and strength training for most people, particularly if you haven't started yet and you've got to a older point in life and you want to start, it's probably, if you've not started yet, it's because you don't necessarily enjoy the idea of it. So we have to think about other ways of kind of changing our mindset around strength training. So hopefully that answers your question there, and not too long-winded. But yeah, and sorry, the other thing you've put in there is about the strength training equipment. I would say that it doesn't necessarily need to look like strength training equipment. And the good thing is now within the gym, there are so many different types of equipment that we could use. So there's barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, the cable machines, there's weighted vests. We don't even need to use gym equipment. We could use rucksacks with bottles of water in. Can use resistance bands. Some people tend to find certain bits of equipment they enjoy using, others they don't using, and there's so many different variations we could try now. So that's something you have to play around with. Is if they don't enjoy the barbell and they hate the idea of it, don't force that. Let's try something else that you might get a little bit more engagement from someone. Good. So I think we've done that one there. The next one that came in. So I put a post on Facebook recently saying, what questions do you have ahead of the Q&A session? And someone replied with one word, which was procrastination. So this person I then asked, I asked if they would elaborate on kind of what they meant by that. And they said procrastination as in not applying for the gym or not doing my own workouts at home. And yeah, you're definitely not the only one that suffers with this. It's when you've not started anything yet and you just can't necessarily even imagine yourself doing a workout. You just know that you'd like to be the type of person that does a workout. When there's no kind of set plan in place, it's very difficult to take the first step when you can't even imagine what the next few steps are going to look like. So for me, the planning is the real important part here. And the Couch to 5K workout is a good example of this. Is the reason it is so popular is it takes the idea of running 5K, which most people can't imagine themselves ever being able to do if they've never run before, and it breaks it down into such small steps that all they need to do is step out the front door, and that first step is laid out for them. So all they have to do is download the app, they put their headphones in, and it tells them exactly what they do. So for anyone who's not used it before, it will say you might do a 5-minute walk. So it will say walk for 5 minutes. And at the end of the 5 minutes, it says, right, get ready to run in 3, 2, 1, run. And then get ready to walk, 3, 2, 1, walk. And there's no thinking involved. The plan is there. And all you've got to do is just step outside the front door and get going. And then the next time, if things went well, then you go on to the next one, and then you do the same thing. And the problem with strength training is it's not quite as easy to do a one-size-fits-all plan as it is with the running like that, because this, particularly as you're, say, an older adult getting into this, there's a lot of different things such as pain, medical conditions, chronic fatigue, those type of things that mean everyone's starting from such a vast different starting point that trying to find a one-size-fits-all program that you can create a similar thing to a Couch 5K is very difficult, so it's hard to do. So what you really need to do is try and find a bit of a plan yourself around your own starting point, and do that in advance of even signing up to the gym. If you can create a plan, then you could even start at home going through some of the exercises, gaining some confidence, and then once you've got a bit of confidence, the idea of signing up to the gym is far less of a daunting prospect than if you've completely done it from scratch where you've not even thought about what you're going to do yet. And then when you get to the gym, the fact you already know what exercise you're doing, you can repeat the same thing you do at home in the gym. You don't even have to start any weights yet, but you get used to the environment. And then you can start to experiment with adding a little bit of weight. But it all comes back to that planning phase. And even before that goal planning phase, what do you want to get out of being stronger to help motivate you a bit to then start to make your plan and then go on from there. So I hope that helps. I mean, there are other tips in procrastination, such as having an accountability partner. So if you can find someone else who wants to be stronger and wants to get going in the gym in the same way you do, and you're both at a similar point, then making an arrangement to, whether it's at the gym and doing a workout with them, or whether you do it at one of your houses, having that arrangement with someone else means if they don't want to let you down, you don't want to let them down, so you're more likely to both turn up there together than either of you were to try and do it at home on your own without kind of telling each other that you were going to do it. So accountability creates a huge part to kind of try and beat the procrastination. With that in mind, in terms of creating a plan, you might well be interested in, I've got the Never Toil to Lift ebook, which is completely free to download. And I've done it so that it helps you create a plan around your own individual needs so that you've got a starting point that works for you. And that guides you through the process of creating that plan. So if that is of interest, if you just go to nevertoiltolift.com/start-here, then that will help you get going. The link is also in the description below. Let's just close that, and Kim is back on, so I'm just going to bring Kim's comment up. So Kim's actually gone through the ebook at the moment. So she's said, "Hi Chris, on week 3 of the plan I've created from your advice and enjoying it. I have created a 12-week plan with the 7 movements you suggest. Where do I go from there?" So the first thing is, once you've got that plan in place, is there's no rush to kind of push on with the weights depending on what your confidence level is. So initially I'd say, with those exercises that you've put into your workout plan, is make sure you feel confident with all of those exercises. And then once you feel confident with them, is start to add a little bit of weight. And then once you're still confident holding some weight doing those exercises, add a bit more weight. And what we want to try and do is get to the point where you reach muscle fatigue at 15 repetitions. And then once you're comfortable at reaching muscle fatigue at 15 repetitions, we're going to try and reach muscle fatigue at 12 repetitions. So you have to increase the weight a little bit. And then over time, we're going to try and get down to the point of reaching muscle fatigue at 5 repetitions. Because that's where you're really going to get a lot more strength. But again, the book will kind of guide you through that a little bit from there. But as you're going through, any questions from that, because it partly would depend on what number of reps you're on the week 3. It doesn't have to be done over 12 weeks. When I originally wrote the book, that whole process could take a lot longer. But the 12 weeks is a minimum you'd kind of progress to the point of the 5 reps there. But it's basically just going to keep gradually adding a little bit of resistance as you feel comfortable to try and find muscle fatigue with the exercises that you've added in. But great, well done for creating the program and getting as far as you have, because that's taken a lot more action than most people. So well done. Let's just hide that. Good. So as a reminder, anyone else who's on live, please do use this opportunity to ask any questions. Use the chat feature on YouTube or the comments below on Facebook. Another thing I would ask, if you have found any value in any of these that you've watched, if you could do me one small favor and just click the thumbs up button underneath the video. And if you haven't already, please do make sure you're subscribed to the Never Taught to Lift YouTube channel, and you'll make sure you don't miss any of these in the future as we go forwards. Where is the next question? So actually this next question comes in quite nicely after Kim's question. There is, again, on that Facebook post where I asked for some more questions, this person put maximum 6 or less reps per, they've put step here, but I imagine they meant per set. And I think this very much refers to that rep range that we want to try and reach muscle fatigue at. So generally, if you can get comfortable pushing muscle fatigue at somewhere within 15 repetitions, you are going to build some muscle strength. If we can get that point of muscle fatigue from 15 slowly down to that 5 or 6, we're going to build a lot more strength than we would if we did it at 15 repetitions. So generally anything over kind of 12 repetitions is considered more in the endurance phase. So you're going to get far more endurance with some muscle size, with a little bit of strength. If you can get fatigue anywhere within 8 to 12 repetitions, you're now in what we call the hypertrophy zone. So that's more size you're building. You're still building some strength, and more so when you were doing it at 15, and you're still building a bit of endurance, but you're more in the size zone. And if we can then continue to increase the weight and get to the point where we're reaching muscle fatigue at sort of 5, 6 repetitions or less, you get a lot of strength, some muscle size with a little bit of endurance. So this all depends on your starting point, at how quickly you get to this point, because as I said, there are a lot of people coming into this they haven't done the exercises before. None of it's familiar to them. The environment in the gym isn't familiar. Even holding a weight isn't familiar. So I'm quite happy people are spending a lot of time just getting confident with the exercises without even pushing to fatigue yet. And then you get comfortable with fatigue, with some resistance, and then upping it. But some people coming in might already be familiar with the gym. They just never really kind of knew exactly what number of reps and sets they were doing. So they can start a bit further down the line, and that's where they can push to 5 or 6 repetitions a little bit sooner. But we've also got to base it on any pains or complaints you might have as well, and we want to make sure they don't flare up as we're trying to increase the weight. So sometimes people have to hold off a little bit longer than someone else who doesn't have the same kind of restrictions. And which one should we go for next? So next question that I had in was, what weight can I realistically expect to lift in the future? So this was sent in through by email. So that's another option for asking questions. If you're not comfortable leaving it on a public thing like YouTube or Facebook, feel free to send me an email. So it's chris@nevertooldtolift.com. And you can answer any questions there. And then again, I will get back to you like I am with this person in this video. So it was part of a longer email, this question, and it was based on, she is looking to get started. She's done a bit with resistance bands, but wants to do some stuff with some weights, looking at different options of how much weight she might want to buy. So she's looking at a barbell set that was up to 30 kilograms. And she's not sure whether she actually needs to go ahead with that or whether she should go with something else, because she weighs 50 kilograms herself and she can't imagine the idea of being able to lift 30 kilograms. That doesn't seem fathomable to her at the moment. So should she go with that or should she go for something else? And that's where there came the question, what weight can I realistically expect to lift in the future, to help guide her decision? So basically, what I say that unless you've got a kind of significant sort of disability, medical condition, or injury that might make it not possible, most people coming into this with just general conditions like arthritis and anything along those lines, that there's nothing major holding them back, should feasibly able to get to putting the whatever they weigh, have that on a bar and be able to lift it from the floor, and then be able to have that on their back on a bar and be able to do a squat with. So for example, you might have heard me use the example of Phil before, who he came in at the age of 76 to see me, and he had never really done any gym work. He'd not really done any sport in the past other than at school. And he, over a few years, mind, it wasn't straight away, but he got to the point, so he weighs 63 kilograms. He can lift 75 kilograms off the floor, and he can squat with 60 kilograms on his back. So that is very achievable. It might only be for one repetition. He could do it for 5 repetitions. But this is someone who'd never done it in the start, and he came in with knee pain, something that was stopping him from doing the gardening. So he thought he'd never going to have that vision that he'd be able to do that. And if you asked him at the start, he probably would have gone down the route of just buying a 5 kilogram set of dumbbells, thinking that was all he's ever going to need. Obviously, he's done this in the clinic with me, where I've got all these weights available, so he didn't have to buy 70 kilograms worth of things. But yeah, and I see. It's Maggie that was left the question, so she's just commented here. So great you're watching live, Maggie. Welcome. So she said, thanks for answering my question in the live chat, and with a smiley face. So yeah, Maggie, I think 30 kilograms is absolutely achievable for you at some point. Again, there's no rush to get to that. We might take things a lot slower before you get to it. It might be you progress really quickly, and then what I said to Maggie in the email is you can, with those barbell sets where you slide the plates on and off, if you need in the future more weight than the 30, because again 50 could well be achievable for you, you can buy plates separately. You don't have to buy an additional dumbbell set or barbell set that's a kind of a step above it. You can buy the same one and just use plates on there. Good. So I hope that's helped, Maggie, and thank you for your question. Any others, again, either use the comments here, or I'm happy to answer any more by email in a future week. So once again, if you're watching live, please do send questions in, or even just say hello. Just let us know where you're watching from. I'm always intrigued to know. So I've got so many more questions that come in this week that I could answer, but I don't want to, I'm mindful of people's time. So let's go with, I've got another question that came in that's kind of a 2-part question, and I'll probably save the other ones for another week. So this person put in lifting with OA. So again, it was that question I put in, what questions do you have about starting strength training as an older adult? And she put lifting with OA. So I asked her to elaborate a little bit further, because that could be many joints that could be affected. So she let me know that it was knee arthritis. So OA means osteoarthritis. So she wanted to know if it was okay to lift with arthritis, or whether it's something that you should avoid with arthritis. And anyone who's watched any of these will probably know my answer straight away to this is it okay to lift with arthritis? And yes, it is. And not only is it okay, it's something that I really encourage you to do, because building strength around an arthritic joint is more likely to make it more comfortable, and you'll be more functional and able to do more, and it will become less of a problem. However, if we go too aggressive too soon and try and lift too much, or lift in a position it doesn't like, we could flare it up and then make things worse, and you feel like, actually, rather than feeling better in general, we feel worse in general. So we have to often adapt if we need to, and take things a lot slower. So we're kind of stuck in a position of, if you don't do enough, the muscles around the knee get weaker and they lose their kind of natural suspension system, which means they're not shielding the joint from the forces of everyday life. So there's a risk that the joint flares up. There's the other side of things. If we push too aggressively, we're likely to flare things up just by putting so much force through it. It hasn't had time to positively adapt to it and then flares up as a result. What we need is what sometimes we call the Goldilocks zone in the middle, where we're trying to do just enough to build the strength, but without flaring up the knee. And again, that can be challenging to find the start point, but once we've found a start point, then we can progress. And yes, lifting weights with arthritis is a really positive thing. So particularly in the knee, I tend to say that strong muscles throughout the legs create this nice smooth suspension system that absorbs impact. So if we're looking at the knee, we get a nice smooth recoil absorption and a nice smooth recoil there, and the knee just works quite nicely. If we start to weaken, our muscles stiffen to create stability. So what you tend to find is, rather than that smooth recoil, you get more of a kind of a jarring motion, and that's what can really aggravate the joint. So if we can really get the muscles stronger so that they're creating that suspension system, we create a much better, much more comfortable environment for the arthritis to calm down. So the arthritis is still there, it's just less symptomatic and less painful, and you can get that with arthritis. The level of arthritis doesn't necessarily dictate how much pain you get. It can be quite flared up and then it can settle down and it can be almost pain-free, in the same way as I see people in the clinic and sometimes they've got pain in one knee and the other knee feels absolutely fine, and they have an x-ray and the painful knee looks pretty good on x-ray, and the pain-free knee looks like it's kind of bone on bone, yet that's the pain-free one. And so it's not always correlated like that, and there are things we can do to calm it down, and building strength is one of the big things that I work with people as a physiotherapist. In terms of some of those adaptations, sometimes it is just not going through quite as deep a movement, and you can still build strength and add some weight with a shallow squat, and that sometimes helps. Sometimes you can change the kind of angle of the knee slightly, so depending if you did take a front squat, the weight's in front of you, that tends to be a bit more on the knee, whereas if the weight's behind you a little bit, or sometimes you can sit in to use a TRX and hold the straps and you can lean back into it, and that normally puts the knee in a slightly more comfortable position. But if you have a look at the Never Taught to Lift ebook and you still can't find a good starting point, then that's where I'd probably recommend trying to see a physiotherapist or another rehab professional that can help you find a start point to be able to work from. But there are a lot of people that do have this idea that if you've got arthritis, I can't lift weights, it's not for me. And then the problem with that is you're likely to get weaker around the knee and cause it to be more likely to become symptomatic. So yeah, I'd certainly try and lift weights if you can, or build strength. It doesn't necessarily need to be weights. And I said it was a two-part question. So she also said, if I hide this, that she's had a recent diagnosis of sciatica, and she's read somewhere that she shouldn't lift weights if she's got sciatica. Is this true? Any advice on that? And it's a difficult one. I'd certainly say it's not that you shouldn't. It's a kind of a straight answer. No, you can't lift weights. It's more a case of the same thing of, if you too much too soon and we're just too adventurous, we could cause a flare up of the sciatica. And what sciatica basically means, you've got a sensitivity to the sciatic nerve that runs down the back of the leg. And if that's aggravated and sensitized, it can cause pain down the path of the leg. It could be pins and needles, it could be numbness, it could be some weakness, or it could be a combination of all of it. And with sciatica and nerve pain, when something's aggravated and sensitized, if it's really acute, it can be really debilitating and nasty, and it's hard to find a comfortable position. Whereas an arthritic knee, you can often take the weight off it, it's a bit more comfortable. Where sometimes sciatica, it's just really hard to find a comfortable position. But equally, it can just be slightly aggravated and slightly sensitized and not be too debilitating, and actually allows you to move, in which case we can build a bit of strength around it, and often that might settle it down. But people tend to be a bit more conservative when they give advice online. So they'll say things like don't lift weights, because the higher, what word am I looking for? The higher demands of what we're asking things to do, like lifting weights, there's a higher risk that we could cause a reaction. But equally, by not doing anything and letting the muscles around the back be weaker, we might create an environment where it's more likely to kick off again. So often it comes down to building mobility and strength around the back. But just like with the knee, you want to start really gradually and then gradually build from there, and probably a lot slower rate than anyone who hasn't got the arthritis or the sciatica is, because we're not necessarily trying to get to the point of reaching muscle fatigue as quick as possible. We're trying to do a slight progression to test the water to see, did it cause an adverse reaction? No. Right, let's do a little bit more. Did that cause an adverse reaction? No. Let's do a little bit more. And we're taking these very small baby steps up to the point till eventually we might start to reach muscle fatigue around some of the joints and muscles that we're aiming for. But you don't want to take big leaps up, particularly with sciatica, because we don't want to cross the threshold too quickly where suddenly we cause a flare up. And with nerves, it's a bit like how long's a piece of string to how quickly they take to calm down. So sometimes it can be a lot longer before you get it calms down to a manageable level. But once again, if you've got any concerns about that sciatica and it's difficult to know at what point it is on your journey, then please, I would go and see a physiotherapist or rehab professional that can help you find that first starting point. For anyone who's watching who might have something similar, if you are looking for a physiotherapist and you're anywhere near the Birmingham area in the UK, then I'm more than happy to kind of help. I do offer some free 20-minute discovery visits where you can come in, have a chat, find out whether physio might work for you, and if we might work together, and then you can find out some options from there. But if not, and we're not the best fit, I can at least point you in the right direction. But if you're not in the Birmingham area, then do have a look at other physios around your area. Feel free to email me if you're looking for a recommendation on anyone kind of in the UK, and I might be able to. I know a few areas where I might be able to kind of help with that. But yeah, it's if you've got sciatica and arthritis at the same time and they're both concerning you, it's probably worth having some kind of support to get going. But it's certainly doable by yourself. But you just want to take very slow steps to move forwards. Good. I don't think there's any more questions come in, and we've gone past the half-hour mark, so I don't want to go on for too long. So other questions that I've got that I'll cover next week, just to kind of give you a bit of an idea. So we've got, how many days per week should I be working out? What's the best type of cardio that I should add in to complement my strength training? I have one shoulder weaker than the other. Any recommendations to how to address this imbalance? So they're the ones straight away that I've got prepared that we can go through next week. So if any of those pique your interest and you'll be interested to hear what I've got to say on those, please do make sure you're subscribed. So if you're watching directly on YouTube, it should be in the bottom right of your screen. You should be able to click subscribe there. Again, if you found any value in this video, please click the thumbs up button, it really helps spread these videos out to more people. And if we can help more people watch it, hopefully between us, we can inspire more people to get started. And then just whilst I'm waiting to see if any last questions come in live, just a quick reminder on a few things there. So if you are interested in that ebook, it's nevertoldtolift.com/start-here. That's a free ebook that you can download from there, and the link is in the description. If the idea of an ebook doesn't quite kind of interest you and the idea of reading off a screen and you'd rather have a physical copy, then I do have a paperback copy that you can find on Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon and search Never Told to Lift, or again, link is in the description. And then a few people have asked me, let's hide that, about one of the t-shirts that I tend to wear, not this one, but it's some of the ones you might see on screen there. They are available for sale if anyone is interested in making a bit of a statement in the gym to let people know that you're never told to lift. So if you're interested, It's nevertoldtolift.store, but the again link is in the description below. But you'll find hoodies, water bottles, mugs, vests. There's a wide kind of range of products there that you can have a look at. And then the last one was, I've had quite a few, you might have heard me mention a few times, the Stronger for Life course. So it's the ebook will have everything you need to get started, but if you want a bit more of an interactive way of going through that, you'll get some more opportunity to sort of speak with me in a group Zoom call where I can have conversations with you and help you through any sticking points. Then you may well be interested then in the course. So it's nevertoldtolift.com/course. But again, the link is in the description. But that is everything that I have for today. Like I say, if you are watching this as a replay, do still use the comments. I put all the questions together and I will either answer it next week or in one of the following weeks. And if I actually get another kind of 10 questions come in this time, I may even put on a second session. So let me know in the comments if you've got a particular kind of preferred time and what your time zone is to when that kind of little bonus Q&A session might be. But for now, I hope you have a nice week, and I will see you next week on Wednesday at 12 o'clock.